probably means you can't do it on your first attempt. It doesn't matter, getting some education to help you is really, really important. It gets you started. But you've really got to be the ultimate master of everything. You haven't got to be the world's greatest marketer, you haven't got to be the world's greatest accountant, you haven't got to be the world's greatest salesperson, but you've got to have a basic level of capability across every single function of business. And the reality is, that takes time. So how actually do you do that? You just kind of get cracking and accept you might get it a bit wrong the first few times you do it. So Schmode, prime example of, I went through the process of starting that business. It was a rubbish idea, it didn't go anywhere. Luckily, that particular idea didn't burn too much money, so we managed to come out of that one relatively unscathed, but it's also an important part. So, before I go on and talk to you about my business number 3, which looks like it's going reasonably well, and it's an interesting business, I suppose, because now when I talk to you guys and say, well, electric vehicle charging, and say, oh yeah, electric vehicles, yeah, they're starting to happen, aren't they? So of course we need to charge them. But of course you kind of had to invent that in 2009 to be in a position to get to that. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I approach idea generation, and the irony of idea generation to me, which is that we all have far too many ideas, and actually it's focused those ideas down, which is the real challenge. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about this one. So this was a cool business, really. So Peter and I started this one in 2005. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about me as a mission-driven entrepreneur, about me as someone who fundamentally believes that you should make a significant contribution to the planet with your entrepreneurial smarts. So, having told you don't build business for economic gain, build business because what you're doing is important on a global level. I'm now going to give you an example of my first business, which categorically was no use on a global level to anybody. So, handing over Ferraris to rich people in the city was an enjoyable thing to do, but this had zero impact on the planet in a positive manner. And I would say, I actually did the song, so to talk about carbon in the atmosphere. It took my next business 4.5 years to make up for all of the bad I did to the ozone layer with my first business. So, but I am now genuinely significantly negatively carbon as an individual, but I did go the wrong way for a bit. So the thing here was, I think that the thing that's important about this business, so essentially it's a members club, you joined, you got access to fun toys. It was a thing that I was passionate about, and I think that's the real important part of this, is if you're not passionate about what you're about to embark on, entrepreneurship is without doubt one of the most difficult things that anyone can ever try to do. I don't believe there's any other career which is really that difficult. And that just doesn't mean anything special about entrepreneurs. It just means you better damn well make sure that you're passionate about it, because what else is going to get you up at 6 AM every morning and go and do an 18-hour day, not 1 week, but in my case for 10 and a bit years? And the answer is never money. The answer is always it's something I'm fundamentally passionate about. So this business, reasonably successful, I suppose, in economic terms, but Peter and I took it to 1.5 million turnover. We sold it to a competitor, so we had an exit. So I guess in that respect, it was a successful venture. But when I sort of look back on it, I said that fundamentally it was missing something for me. And what I worked out was, for me, entrepreneurship isn't about the money. It's about me looking back on my life and saying, did I use my entrepreneurial smarts for something that I feel is important on a global stage? And that's really where this one comes in, Pod Point. So the next business I did, and I'll talk to you about how I came up with the idea of Pod Point and how I focused down on it in a minute. But the concept of this one was that I had a general belief set that travel shouldn't damage the earth, and I'll show you my super secret master plan if you promise not to tell anyone. But the top level of Pod Point is that I fundamentally believe travel doesn't damage the earth. If we carry on doing what we're doing from a carbon perspective, you've probably seen the NASA graph. I should have brought it up, but it covers I think starting in the 1900s. No, it must be earlier than that. So it's like about 1,000 years, and carbon in the atmosphere sort of tinkers along. It goes up and down over time, and then in the past 100 years, it's gone vertical. So we're not seeing a small change in carbon in the atmosphere. We're seeing an uncontrolled acceleration of carbon in the atmosphere. So to me, people like to travel. You've got to come up with solutions which allow them to do what they want to do, but you've also got to tackle carbon. So we said, okay, I want travel not to damage the earth. I thought about that and I said, okay, electric vehicles are one way that we're going to make travel that doesn't damage the earth. And how are we going to do that? And of course, initially you say, well, electric petrol pump, quite easy. We need a petrol pump, it just needs to be electric. So, but you do the analysis on that and you say if you need 200-mile range cars, and you need to charge them in 2 minutes, which is what you do at a petrol pump. You need about 2 megawatts of energy to flow into that car. 2 megawatts of energy is the same as 1,000 domestic kettles running flat out to charge one car, just not sustainable on a mass market level. So I said, okay, that doesn't work, but instead what you've got to do is charge all the cars when they're not being used. And obviously cars are sat stationary 90% of their life. So I said, well, that's simple, just put a pod point everywhere you park for an hour or more and that one's solved. So seemed like an easy solution, but actually that's something that I've been working on for nearly 8 years now, and we've got 27,000 of them out there, of the probably about 1 million that you need in order to have them everywhere you park for an hour or more. So, excuse me, in terms of time frame, it's quite significant, but I guess we're probably one of the, we were just listed in the top 10 most significant companies in electric vehicle charging on a global scale, so getting there, I suppose, on that one, which is kind of cool. But my main aim is not to tell you the story of Pod Point. I can rabbit on about Pod Point for longer than you'd ever want to listen to me to, but I really want to move on and sort of talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. So the first one that I think people constantly ask me about is the idea generation piece, and Peter touched on it, and it's, a couple of you guys said it, the German guy that said I come up with 12 ideas a day. Yeah, me too, kind of. It's not 1 million, but it's certainly, to my mind, the problem with idea generation is we're always searching for the idea which is mind-numbingly great. And the reality is we don't come up with many mind-numbingly great ideas as individuals. What we come up with is an enormous amount of fairly reasonable ideas. And one of the things that's absolutely, I've learned over the sort of 15 years that I've been doing this, is this really simple 2x2 matrix. And I know university professors kind of like the 2x2 because it's not that complex, but this is a good one. And it's execution across the bottom, and it's how good your idea is along the side. And what it's obviously telling you is a bad idea with bad execution, that's not going to work too good. Similarly, a really good idea with bad execution, that ain't going to work too well either. And this touches on the team thing I think Peter was talking about. But actually what it should do, you now see that strong execution, it doesn't matter on the idea. You can have a really successful business out of it. And to me that's really empowering, because if you think about, okay, take the pressure off myself. I do not need the world's greatest idea in order to build a successful business. Mark Zuckerberg's idea, and we're going to talk about him a couple of times during this presentation. I just want to chat to my friends on campus. It's not a mind-numbingly amazing idea. You know, this guy didn't need a PhD in something to research all that and work at an intellectual level that none of us are capable of. When I thought electric vehicles are coming, we might need something to plug them into. That's not a mind-numbing clever idea. You know, we can all do that sort of idea. And I think what a lot of people who are not yet entrepreneurs but are thinking about it do is they get a bit tied up on this. How do I come up with the world's greatest idea? My suggestion to you guys is don't worry about how do I execute amazingly on any idea, really. So you've got all these ideas and you've sort of de-risked a bit and said, okay, it doesn't need to be the world's greatest idea. You then need some sort of filter to say, right now, write down on your mind map, what are the 50 ideas you've come up with in the last month? You then need to do this. And it's all a little Venn diagrams. Again, it's not a very complicated one, but if you put all of your ideas on a matrix of stuff the world needs and stuff I'm good at, and find where those two things cross over. Because this is the stuff that you're both good at and you're going to be passionate about and you're going to find a market to. So, you know, there's lots of ways to explain this in more technical language in terms of, you know, making sure you've got product market fit, you know, all this sort of stuff, making sure you've got the skills balance and all the rest of it. But fundamentally, does the world need it? And am I good at it? That's the area to put it. And you can take all your ideas. So for me personally, electric vehicle charging, turned out the world didn't need it when I invented it, but you know, eventually I think we're moving to a position where the world does need electric vehicle charging. And being an engineer and a technology guy and an entrepreneur, that kind of fitted in. I said, yeah, I'm probably all right at doing that kind of thing. You know, I could have picked a challenge of, you know, solve clean water. Stuff the world needs, yes, absolutely. Something I've got some particular smarts in, not really. It's not something that I have any particular knowledge over. So my view is if you map your ideas onto that sort of very simple matrix, you're in a good place. The other one which sometimes I put on that slide is what's within my reach. If I'm talking to more experienced entrepreneurs, I put that third part on the Venn diagram. But the reality is when you're a new entrepreneur, who knows what's in your reach? You don't have a go at it. Why didn't I start an electric vehicle car company? Because I was realistic about the fact my ability to raise capital and the reach I had isn't the same as Elon Musk's. So I get that Elon Musk's on a different level to I am, and that's fine. But recognising that fact and building that into your thinking process, again, is quite important, I think. Just a bit of fun this slide, really. So, I've built a company with an awful lot of help from an awful lot of people that's starting to get some real solid market positioning. But I thought I ought to show you quite how bad my original plans were. So I've actually shared with you the genuine photographs of my notepad where I invented what an electric vehicle charging point. And this teaches you another thing. Having told you that entrepreneurs have to have skills in an extremely wide range of areas, this is proof that both design and artistic ability isn't included in that list of things you have to have. So luckily other people can help you. And it's also quite a push into the mindset, and you've probably heard from various people the sort of fake it till you make it kind of thinking. And there's a really nice anecdote out of Podpoint's history, which is the first Podpoint I sold to Tesco's. And you think Tesco's, right, quite a big company. So, must have really been in there, nailed the pitch, showed them the product, showed them the software, really got everyone excited about it, operated perfectly, all the rest of it. In truth, I had one thing when I went in to sell to Tesco's, and it was that rendering there. No product, no team, no money, I had absolutely nothing. I went into product into Tesco in May 2009 with a few renderings on a piece of foam board and said, I'd like to sell you a charging point, and they said, yes please, I'll take 2. At which point my genuine answer was, shit, I better actually get on with and make this business go. But the real lesson I see from that thing is that as soon as you've got your idea and you put it on your Venn diagram and said, stuff I think I'm good at and stuff I think the world needs, check you're not a lunatic. And the way you check you're not a lunatic is you go and talk to a customer and find out if they want one. And if you can find someone who wants one, crack on with the business. If you can't find a customer, maybe have another go at the idea generation stage. And I did bizarrely manage to sell my first charge point to Tesco's. Lost in time how on earth we managed to do that. But even if I hadn't, the fact that a customer said I wanted to buy one was enough validation for me to actually say, right, now is the time to actually put serious time and money into this project. But it's a really important stage. Get the person who's actually going to use or purchase your product to tell you whether it's a good idea, because you can sort of, breathe a bit too much of your own smoke as an entrepreneur and get a bit too excited about it. Until the external market tells you it's a good idea, don't get too excited. So here's another thing, what I call the innovator's dilemma. So I've talked to a lot of people about this. This is fundamental. I wish it wasn't, but it can't be any different. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're coming up with good ideas, you're almost definitely an innovator. What fundamentally is the definition of an innovator? It's that you come up with stuff ahead of everybody else. So you get this bit of pig of a situation, which is you come up with something a bit before the world wants it. And that's a bit of a challenge for an entrepreneur, because it means time passes between you inventing something and you having something which is a mass market proposition. And that long time can be quite a long time. In the case of my company, so this was sort of 2009, the world wants it. Wasn't until about 2013, so arguably invented the concept 4 years before the world really wanted it. And what's the other sort of part of a long time? Capital. Invariably you use money. I ran out of money about here in terms of this, so having a good contact base of people that you can go and ask to in order to give you this run rate, that's helpful. But whilst agreeing with team and all that other things, in terms of my business, where the money ran out versus where the world wanted it, 4 years is when the world started wanting my product. If it had been 4 years and 3 months, I wouldn't have made it. So that's how tight these kind of things are. You really have to be a bit lucky, but also accept the concept that if you are inventing something which is a little bit new, probably are ahead of the curve, and it takes a little bit of time for the rest of the planet to come up and sort of catch up with you. What do? Don't burn too much money is the answer. So everything you can do to bootstrap that business until the world starts getting to a position where it wants your product. Really avoid the projects where possible that have an enormous hockey stick downwards investment, because you don't know. Next one. This is what I thought would happen. So I thought, invent Podpoints. Electric vehicles become ubiquitous 2 years later. Turned out they didn't. It wasn't really until up here it really happened. If I'd have been spending money at an immense rate down here, boom, all unhappy people, no business, all bad. So go easy on the spend. Don't, again, get too excited until the customer actually starts interfacing with it. Fake it till you make it. Get the product, get the customers buying it, and then you've got everything you need to actually scale that business up. A little bit aware of time, so I'll probably just share a couple more of my sort of fun things. I love reading all the sort of, you know, the Dragon's books and the entrepreneurs' books and the books of all of the successful entrepreneurs. And I guess I then, over a few years, have experienced some of the things that they talk about in their books. And this is the great one. It's the entrepreneur serenely executing the perfect strategy over a long period of time. Going from where you start up to whatever your goal is. You know, state my goal, travel doesn't damage the earth, there's my goal. So right, I start there and I go straight off to my goal. I'm a successful entrepreneur, I know what I'm doing. That's how it works, right?
No way.
Yeah. That is actually my path today. And the important thing of that is, that's the right path. That is the only path that you're going to go on as an entrepreneur. So don't worry about the fact that you don't know all of the answers all of the time. What you've got to do is be really confident. And I have a couple of rules which help here. And the first one is, always doing nothing is the wrong solution in entrepreneurial endeavour. You're stuck because you're